Curtains have opened up the auditorium to usher the performance of Pabulum. Spotlight shines overhead. Director raises their thumb. If everybody's comfortable, I'd like to welcome you to the show. Thank you for waiting to now unwind. Feast your imagination on what you find. What will you find? That's Pabulum.
That's Pabulum.
That's Pabulum.
That's
Pabulum.
Salutations, welcome to the podcast. I hope you've been marvellous. I'm in a rush because Princess Melissa needs rescuing from that bastard bee king Kakanax. I'm hiding in some honeycomb and his guards are on the lookout for me, so I don't know if you can hear them. Listen carefully, what I'm about to tell you is very important. All facets of our society are being subverted and they all fall in the same way. Yeah, we already know celebrities are meaningless and vacuous since the internet came along. We've all seen one man, one job, but actually the internet is going to collapse too. And so we must return to television in a cosmic game of cat and mouse. You see, Mammon infiltrated television, perverted it through advertisements, subverted it with censorship, and then the nepotism and corruption took hold. This is how it has happened with every institution in our society. All of them have been corrupted by the same ideology, and it will not be enough to just create an alternative platform and oppose this infiltration of our institutions. We must be stronger than that and sever the dragon's head at its source. We must expose Mammon and his methods and ensure that the corrupted mediums regain integrity, intellect, virtue, courage. They must become bastions of freedom to illuminate the world and be a source of pride for our nation, thriving far from the grasp of corruption. And so I'd like to just expand on all of this throughout this episode, but I say I've got to go. We've got it. We got to see what the schism. Well, led to the schism to begin with, and as ever, do keep in mind that everything you're about to hear may well just be the. Now, as your king, I'd like you to know that I'm a believer in something that's called enlightened absolutism, which can be summed up in a quote by Emperor Joseph II of the Holy Roman Empire. Everything for the people, nothing by the people. And that's because the people are retarded. Not to parrot Osho, but this is of course why democracy is also retarded, and made doubly retarded when you actively dumb down the population and therefore the participants in the democracy. And so I have determined that what is best for you and what is best for our society is the complete nationalisation of television. There should only be one TV channel. And I tell you this because I've learned from the mistake that led to people flocking from television to the internet in the first place. You see, once upon a time, there was only one channel, and now there are 1 million plus the internet. This is to cater to every individual niche and whim, because people are prismatic. I've said this 1 billion times before, but what happens when you break off to make more channels to cater to the fact we are prismatic? You end up making society schismatic and stupid, because you literally give people the option of, hey, would you like to retard yourself? And they overwhelmingly pick yes. So some people may well be using it wisely and educating themselves and bettering their lives, but then if that person interacts with someone that's been retarding themselves, is there any cohesion? No. And it's not an abstract hypothetical. This is the world we live in today. If you're a person that doesn't watch reality TV shows or soaps and the X Factor and whatever other garbage, and then you interact with one of those people, do you feel like you're on the same fucking planet? That shouldn't happen when you're in the same nation. That's not good for the nation. You need to have things in common and get along with each other, and also be as educated and enlightened as possible. Your king knows what is good for you more than you do. That's why the king is king. So television is always going to affect the brains of people. It's an informational input of some sort. We just want a reversal of the current state of things, to have it be positive propaganda for the masses rather than be a subversive schism. And I always assumed that television was nothing more than subversion since day one, just military-grade propaganda. And I don't think that's unreasonable to have thought this, because when you're dealing with the introduction of a great leap in technology that's mass-produced and significantly alters society, I don't think it's ever an unreasonable thing to think. And I did come across something that vindicated this idea too, after I watched Kenneth Clarke's Civilization, which is an art is history series. You can find the full thing on YouTube, and I recommend you watch it. But I found out it was produced by a man called Peter Montignon, and he was an army officer that was also in MI6. So it's a good show, but it's just randomly peppered with anti-German propaganda, just post-war propaganda, just kicking the Nazis while they're down. So they just randomly start blaming Hitler for like the end of the Renaissance and shit. In reality, Kenneth Clarke would be in complete agreement with old Hit when it comes to the disaster of modern art, because Hitler was completely right about modern art. It is dog shit. It is both subversive and inferior. So if you can't accept that, it's because you're a little bitch. Don't get me wrong. A real silly sausage. Truly, Hitler was a rotten guy, and I'm not even trying to be woke, but on modern art, completely fucking right. And if you lack the ability to accept this nuance, it's because you're being a little bitch. There's no other explanation. You're just being a little bitch. So Isaiah's completely right about that. But my opinions have changed somewhat on television now. You see, I looked into the history of the BBC and found out that before it had a logo, it was represented by its coat of arms. And this has many symbols. It has the lion, and the lion's the national animal of the nation. It has like eagles and to represent being booglers and sending a message, and had a motto, and the motto was "Nation shall speak peace unto nation." And then on top of all of this, I found out they also have written on the walls of their head office, "This temple of the arts and muses is dedicated to Almighty God by the first governors of Broadcasting House in the year 1931. It goes on, but this is all something I can get behind. When I hear all that and I go, oh yeah, this kind of serves a purpose. I can get behind this. I mean, does this not just sound like a Pabulum to you? Nation shall speak peace unto nation. But yeah, and then I looked into what kind of programs they were there in the 30s, and although it isn't possible to know how they actually were because they're all broadcast live out of a palace, so there's no tapes or anything, but on paper, I honestly don't think they were far off from being a force for good. So I'm going to go through it and tell you how the TV listing for our one master channel is going to look. The first thing that struck me about the programme listing is that there was no news, and this is something that must be normalised once more. The BBC spent $310 million on news last year, Why the fuck would you need that much money to tell me the news? 310 million spent to inundate the nation with anti-white propaganda and fear-mongering. It's treasonous, and it's not fucking necessary. In the past, they just had an emergency broadcast say, hey bitches, we're at war now, and that was it. Now it's 24/7 fear-mongering, manipulating the masses, turning everyone into a fucking schizo. And it's even worse for, other channels. Oh, no, maybe it could be the same for the BBC even, but, when you need the viewing figures to be as high as possible. And of course we're all run by the same fucking globalists pushing the same agendas with the fake news anyway. And this is a reason why the masses left in droves from TV to the internet. It's one of the key reasons, because if a 12-year-old starts a YouTube channel and makes a claim, someone will demand that they substantiate that claim by providing a source. I'm 12 years old myself. If I make a claim, someone will go, hey, can you provide a source for that? And yet, for all of the major news organisations on the planet, they have no obligation to provide a source. They have absolutely no obligation to provide a source, despite us having a red button. We have a red button. Someone has written a script for that newsreader, so they must have a source from somewhere, and yet they can't just make that fucking simple adjustment after spending all of those fucking all those millions. You can't just go, hey, can I press the red button and see the fucking source for that claim you've just told me? That's not a requirement. So we're going to go back to having no news, just emergency broadcasts when there's a real emergency. And you'll know it's an emergency because it will be your king telling you this is real shit. Not just, trying to make you tune in. And of course we'll have one on April Fools each year too, just to keep you on your toes. And we're going to take all that news money and put it towards other shows, as well as take money from any bad TV show ever made. That's the game now. You make anything shit, you have to pay up for subverting my subjects. Speaking of which, all wokeness has got to go. And brings me on to the rest of the guide. And honestly, this episode, I am a bit of an ambassador for my nation to the rest of the world. This is a bit of an international endeavour, a podcast. And so this episode will mostly just be recommendations. If we can, we can get out of the way. This is just going to be mostly an episode of recommendations. But there's a few of them that have the same theme, which the wokeness has got. But I'm a fan of some of them. Children's TV. We could probably do a whole episode on children's TV. In and of itself, the change that can be made there. But there is one that I like, and that's the Amazing World of Gumball. This has Pabulum stamp of approval. I like the Amazing World of Gumball. Big fan of Ben Broccoli. I think that if I'm going to have some guests on the podcast, Ben Broccoli is definitely someone that would be a good idea, I think. And then we have also cooking shows. You see, recipes are going to be a core part of our culture going forward. So this is a good thing, and come down with me. Well, we're taking that. We're gonna laud Dave Lamb with a knighthood. Because that knighthood is long overdue. Come down with me. Amazing World of Gumball. We'll have both of those, and this is like morning television, the morning schedule, and then some light entertainment also. But the thing is, with all of these, is that the wokeness has to go from them. They're all great things, but just the wokeness has to go. And I think with the light entertainment. And like some comedy even, this is one of the huge schisms in society I'm talking about. You can have schisms between people watching different things on television, but really the biggest schisms are between people who watch TV and have moved to the internet. I'm one of the people who moved to the internet, and like I can be in public sometimes, and I'll be talking, and I'll be just talking casually. I'll be like, oh, fucking, I bet you Nicola Sturgeon eats a mean box, and then I'll be with someone going, oh, you can't say that around here. And like they're all like, panicky and shitting themselves. And I'm just like, hey, I'm in first gear. Like I'm genuinely not even trying to be offensive, not trying to be controversial. I'm just talking naturally. But then you realise it's like the kind of like all of the input of what like comedy is and what the bar is and what offensive is and what like it's completely different, because their comedy is like, I can't wait to hear what Paul Merton has to say on Have I Got News for You Tonight. You know, and every time I'm in public, I'm just like, oh yeah, I forget like that is someone's entire input. It's just they've been spoon-fed mediocrity. You know, just vanilla mediocrity. You know, so there's a big divide with comedy. So it is a big one, but it's a comedy show I like as kind of light entertainment, which is Would I Lie to You? And the basic show, like the premise of it, is like they tell it's a panel show, and they'll tell a story, and the other team has to guess whether they're telling a truth or a lie. You know, pretty simple concept. Got some of the best comedians. I really like Rob Brydon. I like David Mitchell, Lee Mack. Some of the guests I like on sometimes. Greg Davies, Bob Mortimer. You know, I have had some good laughs watching that show. But the thing is, it's one of the most hit or miss programs you can ever fucking see. Because the fucking, whoever it is, the booker for the guest on the show needs to be tried for treason. You know, it needs to be tried for treason because it's just insane. You know, the diversity quotas have to go. All across society, diversity quotas have to go. The meritocracy must be restored. You know, I mean, it's all fucking based on a myth. Like, the idea is like, oh, hey, everyone's racist. It's like a white supremacist media, which, you know, I mean, as we'll get to, is not even a native population in control of the media. But they'll go, oh, yeah, that's what's happening. They're, like, keeping all these minorities down and women down and everything. It's like, how long's it been now? Like, well over a decade, for sure, that you've had diversity quotas on television. Can you name me one superstar that was being held back all that time? Can you give me one name? One. I really should be asking for 10, and it should be easy to go, oh yeah, it was this woman who wasn't on TV, there's this minority, this minority. Like, you should be able to name me 10 easily, and I fucking know it, and you know it too. If you're honest, you fucking know it. There's zero. There is zero, because it was based on a myth. There was no one being held back at any point. So now what happens is you have this great TV show, as I say, some of the best comedians in the country, great concept, and then you have this fucking lunatic woke cunt in the background who goes, oh, you know what this show's missing? Dion Dublin and Claire Balding. I mean, what? So, I all across all these shows, the tokenism of the talentless has to end. It just has. When we have to say, hey, what's going to make this the best show? We're not. This is not a fucking like. what game are you playing here? You know, it's insane. It doesn't work, and as it's all based on a lie. That's pretty clear. The verdict is in. We've given. I don't even know now. I say 1 decade, probably a couple of decades. Zero names, zero people I can go like, oh yeah, that person from that was a diversity hire, absolute superstar. Now we're going to remember that name for decades to come. You know, like, no, there's zero. There's zero. It's been a marked downgrade. So, yeah, but then that brings me on to nature shows. And see, I quite like the nature shows. They're still doing well because you can't really make a nature show woke. You know, you can't. you can't add diversity quotas to the fucking salamander world. So, you know, they're doing fine. And as I said, I am Attenborough's natural myself, so I'll be taking over from that show. And another thing that they're kind of good on still is documentaries. Because I don't want to watch an internet documentary. I don't know if you ever seen an internet documentary before. That fucking music starts playing. Yeah, thanks, editor. That's an original choice. Never heard that before. Show me footage of fucking riot police. The Pope. A pizza. It's like I'm watching a documentary. Why are you trying to make me shit my pants while I'm watching a documentary? I do have one recommendation though, as an internet documentary, and that's I got recommended it by Mr. Dean back from episode 2, and it was called Was Jimmy Saville a Wizard? And it's just fucking trippy. Like, honestly, this is something I highly recommend. You have to check out Was Jimmy Saville a Wizard? And it's just trippy. Like, for no reason whatsoever. I would love to know the making of the whole thing, but they just start, like,
changing the voice throughout the entire... And just without an explanation, it's not changing the voice. And it doesn't make sense to anyone, like, why would, someone do that? And then, just random weird noises coming, bad, impressions of Sir Jimmy. It's basically just all about the occult and occult symbolism, and it's not more like
Jingle jangle being a spell word, and how he was born on a particular date and his past doesn't really add up, and Aleister Crowley's involvement in the showbiz world and everything.
It's it's well worth it. But that's the thing. I quite like the conspiracy elements, and so I want to have a conspiracy show. Remember, we got the submission into the pod.
Bottoms up, and the devil laughs.
Bottoms up, and the devil laughs. We got that woman. Well, we're going to have her as primetime television. We're going to have that show where she basically exposes the true conspiracy, because it's like, why is that not on mainstream television? What the fuck are you scared of? Just have like a tinfoil hat conspiracy show. That was when YouTube was at its golden age. So it's gone now. It's past its prime. That used to be like 10 years ago or so. You would go onto YouTube and it would be recommending you like David Icke and fucking Alex Jones and shit. Just like 9/11 inside job documentaries, and now they're banned from YouTube. So, for me, that was the golden age. We want to have the best of both worlds of the internet and television. So primetime television, we're going to have all fucking bottoms up. And then speaking of Sir Jimmy, actually, Sir Jimmy Sav, J Sav, top of the pops. We have a lot of shows that were kind of for the arts, but this is my point with it being schismatic. Is like, in the past, if you just have one platform, or for most people, they would have 3 platforms back then, 3 channels. Most people will have seen you if you're a band that's now going to be on top of the pops. That's a real platform. Now there's no platform for any musician, really. Like, it's not that you won't have a music show, but again, there's a million different shows plus the internet. So there's no real exposure. There's no guarantee everyone's going to watch that. The most popular show right now, it's like maybe 10% of the nation might watch it. That's like a really, really popular thing. That wouldn't happen. That shouldn't really happen. It should be, if it's a really, great piece of art, you should be able to, all be aware of it. So yeah, it's kind of disempowering. When you go like, oh, well, you can do it yourself. You have all these different platforms, and it's like, no, you should have one platform. And it's like the older generations don't really understand that for artists. That like in their generation in the 70s and earlier and stuff, it's like if you're in a band, you have a kind of a foreseeable process of how you're going to make it to the next level and get exposure and do all this, because you have a real platform. It's like now it's been dispersed and no one has a platform, you know, so it can just be controlled by corruption and nepotism. And that's all you get. You just get, you know, dog shit Wigger music. So it's like, yeah, and it's the thing too. Like back in the heyday of the 1930s BBC, this is what most of the shows were. When I looked in this list, it's like most of them were just like variety shows. Like it is just supposed to be a place where you can then platform people of the nation. And go like, hey, look at all these artists of all these different varieties, and yeah, and they also would do the same thing. I saw for like just general professions, like in an arts and culture, they'll have a documentary on, say, you know, I don't know, like a carpenter, and he'll show like his work, you know, like people, faces of the nation doing the things, and then also. All of the money, I think our biggest budget I want to put towards drama. We should be creating Game of Thrones level dramas with all of this money we accumulated, and we already have the show that can really do it. You know, we have one of the greatest shows ever made, I think, which is Doctor Who. As I've said many times before, I am a Time Lord myself, and it's kind of funny to me that like. The Doctor Who is kind of like so fucking woke, and he told y'all that like Gallifrey was destroyed and he was the last from Gallifrey, and it isn't even true. There's like, really think about it, like Time Lords are fucking invincible. Like you think, well, all the Time Lords, none of them can die. They fucking regenerate all the time, but suddenly they all get wiped out and he's the only one. It's like, no, the reality is he was getting bullied on Gallifrey, and then he like comes here, he's like, yeah, I was the last one. He's like, nah, he was just a fucking weirdo. He's getting bullied, came here, it's like, oh yeah, I'm the only one. Gallifrey's doing sound. There's full of Time Lords right now. And he's just one. He's just Doctor Who. This Doctor fucking Blue, you know, Doctor Clue, and even his doctorate isn't even real. You got that from the fucking from the dark web. And but what's so great about the concept of the show is that it's an eternal show. Because the thing is that like it's about time travel, so you can go to any period of the past, any period of the future, which is going to be eternally interesting to every single generation. And then you have like science fiction thrown into the mix. And also, you know, these like sonic screwdrivers, you got recurring villains, you got Daleks, you got Cybermen. And then also it's like he doesn't die. So whatever, even if the actor playing the Doctor dies, you just go, oh, we just got another one. It literally can be an eternal show. This show can last for as long as TV lasts. There's no reason for it to ever go off air, really. And this is how poisonous the woke ideology is they've basically killed an immortal show. That it's fucking dog shit. It's so bad, but it should be so good. But it's so bad. Like, and you know, I have a plan of doing another segment on this podcast. Actually, I'll call it Deep Dive. And the thing is, I saw a few episodes of Doctor Who a while back. It was on Netflix, and I went through them, watched them, and I realized like, oh, this has always just been propaganda. Like truly woke propaganda. I want to do a deep dive and go into like the writers and their like affiliations. It truly is just propaganda, like rewriting history and just like putting shit in. But what's key with that? I say all of the money should be going to make the best dramas possible. Should have the best writers in the country and the best ideas in the country. But you see, when you have this woke ideology that you're trying to use as propaganda through television, which is what they're doing, they miss out on character development. Literally, like if you try and push these kind of ideas, and it's pretty off-putting to the majority of the population anyway, because you're just trying to bludgeon them with, like, you know, anti-white, anti-British propaganda, which is off-putting, believe it or not. So you know, it doesn't fucking work. But you also lose the opportunity for any character development. Because now you can't fall in love with that character and see how they develop or anything else like that you should really have in a TV show for it to be a good TV show. Like, you've foregone having that in place of pushing an agenda. You know, so it's just terribly written. And this is the point. So I will be the Doctor myself. I say I am a Time Lord. And also I have experience writing the show, so I would also like to write a few episodes of it. You know, I wrote an episode of Doctor Who after watching Was Jimmy Saville a Wizard? Actually, and in my episode of Doctor Who, I sent it to the BBC. They didn't get back to me, but in my episode of Doctor Who, the Doctor goes back in time to the 1970s to the BBC studios to try and prevent Sir Jimmy from molesting children. That was my episode, and Pudsey, the bird, Illuminati bird, and that's not a coincidence. Was his accomplice, and his cigar was a sonic screwdriver, and yeah, the name of the episode was Now Then. If I recall, but I say no reply. But yeah, so that's what we should put most of our funds into. Another thing that they'll have is game shows or so, and I like that. I like to challenge the intellect of the nation, and this is one of the shows I saw was called Spelling Bee from the 1930s. Wait, do you hear that? Because I fucking mentioned B. I'm telling you, I mentioned B, and they're on to me. Fucking Kakanax is just a little bitch. And there's a game show that I like. There's a show called Fort Boyard, but nobody's watched it because it was on Channel 5, which is basically a channel for bogan cunts. It's a bogan channel, so it wasn't popular in my country, but it's like the biggest show in France and Russia. Anyway, I would watch when I was 7 or 8 on Challenge, and it was fucking incredible. It was a game show set inside of a fort located in the sea off the west coast of France, built by Napoleon. And the show was hosted by a busty bimbo vixen, some Page Threefot, and also Leslie Grantham, who was literally a murderer. I shit you not. And this wasn't after he'd been on telly. This was before. You know, when I talk sometimes about the vaginal mind and the vaginal culture, and I tell you that this is in our culture. Case in point, a vaginal culture is a vengeful culture, and we have a culture of forgiveness in Britain. This guy literally fucking killed a cunt, and we're just like, oh, we'll call him Dirty Den and put him on EastEnders. Now they want to behead you if you don't compliment Eddie Izzard's womanly balls. This isn't British culture. Anyone that goes along with this shit is either a traitor to the nation or has allegiances to elsewhere. Anyway, the premise of this show is that there's a team of 5 people, and they do a series of challenges within the rooms at the fort in order to win keys that have clues inside. And all these clues are words that relate to a password that they have to spell out at the end of the show in order for a gate to open, and then they gain access to some gold, which is kept by Mr. Boyard. And I remember they'd have to run around the fort from room to room, and the host had a good cop, bad cop vibe going on. She'd go, I think you guys are gonna do great, and then the murderer would go, I wish I could strangle you. And then when it were going into a room to start the challenge, I swear down this effing, he'd go, Jack the doors. And some fucking midget wearing a sailor's costume would waddle towards the door to unlock it for them. If you've never seen this show, you'll think I'm making all this up. I promise you, it's the truth. This was the show. And all the contestants were squeezed into unnecessarily tight, fucking gym gear. And sports bras and the like, and they'd be made to do these challenges, overtly sexual challenges. I remember in one of them they'd have a huge rotating pole and a key that would dangle at the end, so they'd have to wrap the whole body around it and then scoot up it to grab the key without falling off. So there'd be this woman panting and sweating as she slides along this mandingo pipe, and the camera was placed by the key, so it was just staring at her cleavage the whole time. It was ingenious. I remember being a 7-year-old watching it at lunchtime, eating a wagon wheel with a stiffy. There was another game, I remember, usually preceded by Mr. Boyard making an aggressively lewd double entendre.
You're quite attractive for a northern girl, aren't you? We have a lot of facials?
I am going to get one now.
You certainly are. You're going to get a face full, darling. Jack the door.
And we'd have to carry buckets of water while it's on a treadmill and attempt to pour the water into a tube to get the key out. And it would splash around and just, soak the bosom. And then there was the professor also. You see, winning a game wasn't the only way to receive a key with a clue. At one point, they'd go up to the watchtower, and that's where a senile man called the Professor lived. And if they answered a riddle he gave them correctly, they'd get another clue. And if they failed, you just launch the key into the sea, and then they'd have to swim to get it. And this whole thing just added a whole new dimension to the show, a little interlude that always led to him breaking into a soliloquy by the end of it.
Bon ami, ça va? You look just like an old friend of mine. I haven't seen him for a long time now.
Oh, really?
Yes, he died in a car crash maybe 40 years ago now. A lorry clattered into his car as he was driving up the A7. His corpse was completely mangled. His face was unrecognizable. Ah, the riddle. So, you know how it works? I'll give you 3 clues to solve it, and if you don't succeed, out the window it goes. I am soft and wet on the inside, while hard and hairy on the outside. What am I?
Cunt. You're a cunt.
I begin with a C and
Cunt.
end in a T.
Gotta be a cunt. Clammy cunt.
No,
Ugly
keep
fucking
trying.
cunt. You're a cunt. You're a cunt. Gotta
Okay,
be a
here's
cunt.
the
Big
final
smelly
clue.
cunt. Ugly cunt.
In between
Horrible
my
cunt.
beginning
Horrible cunt.
and end,
Treasonous cunt.
there's a U
Ugly
and
cunt.
an N.
Incestuous cunt. Inbred cunt.
No,
You're a fucking
no,
cunt.
I was running out of...
You're a
Your time is up, I'm afraid. The answer was coconut.
Oh, I was gonna say coconut.
Well, out the window it goes.
Goodbye, Professor.
Yes, au revoir. And if you see the albatross, don't forget to shoot it on sight. Back to being alone. I wonder if he noticed I'd shit my pants. I've been smelling it for years now. Or maybe it's the body I left under the floorboards. I better go and investigate.
And not all the games had a sexual undertone. I remember there was one game where they went into a room full of tarantulas, and the clue was attached to one of the stomachs, so they'd have to pick them all up to see. And the blonde presenter, who I felt must have known where the clue actually was, would shout through a box into the room, "Try over there!" Just to make them pick up the tarantulas, and then they'd go, "Oh, there's nothing written on this one." You see some of the notes attached to the tarantulas were red herrings. So some tarantulas were quislings on the side of Mr. Boyard. And then they'd be told to check inside a box that was full of scorpions. Anyway, at the end of the show, they'd use the clues to spell out what they thought was the password. They'd all walk on a letter on a crossword and shout, M-I-N-G-E, Minge. Then Dirty Den goes, Monique, the tiger's head if you'd please. And then some random African woman with it's tiger print. No involvement in the show. At all. This is it with one role. Random African woman wearing a tiger's print turns the tiger's head. Then some suspenseful music plays to show, there's a bit of anticipation, and they wait to find out if they've got the password right. And then a bunch of coins fall down and they shit on each other and drink each other's piss and everything. And then another midget along with Jack and Jill carry this pail of gold they've collected to be weighed. And then after the time runs out to collect the gold, the tigers are released. My only criticism with the show is that I never got to see the tigers catch anyone. I've been saying for years now that we need to bring more tigers into this country. There's a takeaway from this show. It's that I investigated this show, you see, and I found out it was created by a guy called Jacques Antoine, and he's a bit of an expert in the game show because he also created another fan favorite called the Crystal Maze, and it's the same guy that made Fort Boyard made Crystal Maze, and they kind of share a few patterns, and that's the game show hosts should be actors. Like it's the same for the Crystal Maze. Like that guy was like a Shakespearean actor. I know the bald guy from a Crystal Maze. But it's the same thing here. You have Dirty Den. It's just so much better that way. The actual characters. Whereas now on TV, it's like every game show host is like they're just trying to be a normal person. Whereas like why not just add another dimension by just making them a character, and then also everything's far better with a soliloquy 1,000 times. But the professor added so much to that show, and here's what I'm thinking: Alzheimer's watchtowers merge. Cost-effective production. That's what I'm talking about. Just tell a bunch of people that Alzheimer's. Hey, you're the Riddler now. You're the Riddler now. Stick a camera on them, and boom, we've got a way better TV show. Just capture the soliloquy. That's all we need. And as I say, very very cost effective. And the other thing too with the takeaway of this is they don't have to be likable. No, you don't always have to be likable. So with the game show host, it's like they should be actors and play a character, but they don't have to be a likable character. Just be a bit of a cunt, and people like that. They like to hate it. You see, that's why people loved Gladiators, because you had the Wolfman, and he'd just throw his helmet at the audience and call everyone a cunt. That's what was really amazing. So to be honest, I was in my research for the show because I'll do one on television, and then I ended up watching an episode of Gladiator because I really did like it when I was a kid, and it's honestly a bit shit. Like I never thought it would be, but it's like you're watching it and it's fucking cringe. It's just like Americanization, and like and they're going like, well, the other thing with it too, actually, another takeaway from it is we're talking about the diversity quotas and this stuff. It's like it was already happening in the 90s. Like, it was already a pretty fucking diverse show, a pretty diverse audience being shown on television in the 90s. You know, fucking Shadow, anyone? Shadow, Nightshade. You know, that's one thing. And also, like, the strong women, fucking Jet. You know, you had all the stuff they're pushing for now, claiming, like, oh, we've never had that before. It's like, watch an episode of The Gladiators, I swear down, it's already all there. In that, and then that brings me to the second point, like, where you have this thing being pushed now where people say, oh, everyone has to be hench. Everyone has to be hench. That's why society's falling apart, because people aren't hench enough. It's like, you had it in the 90s. Oh, you need hench role models. You need role models on steroids. It's like, we had it in the 90s. It didn't solve all of our problems. The society's problems are bigger than the size of your role model's muscles. It's also to burst the fucking the alpha bubble. It's like, yeah, that is, it's not the panacea cure for society's problems. There's those two things you can take away from it, but also it's just the Americanization. I say it's a fucking cringe show. You watch them going dan dan dan, and everyone bites the dust, and they're like fucking waving foam fingers. Imagine having a foam finger. Imagine leaving your house with a foam finger. Hi, we're the foam finger family. You know, it's like this is unfathomable to me. And I'm saying there's Americanization though, but really, it is an appropriation of our culture when you think about it. Like, Gladiators is actually a medieval tournament. You know, minus the bloodshed and chivalry, and with a worse prize at the end. They'd get some goofy Range Rover that looked like it belonged in the wild thornberries. In the past, the winner of a tournament would get to fuck a royal in the ass. Not a queen, you know, no one close to the throne, but maybe when it's like 12th in line, you could fuck them in the ass. That was the prize, and let me tell you something. I'm gonna bring this back. That's what I'm gonna show you.
Well, I felt confident coming into the final after the jousting. Graysman knew a bit coming up to travel later, but I kept my eyes on the prize the whole time. Well, Lady Luck was smiling upon you, and I'm pleased to say that you're the winner of Gladiators. And then this fucking Greb with a nosebleed and a giant earbud licks his lips as he ascends some steps towards his prize, and we'll just have Meghan Markle in some stocks with her asshole being held open by those fucking beef curtains, whatever they're called. Fucking the beef eater guards, one on each side. Oh, I waited all day for this. No, honey child, please, I'm royalty. Yeah, you like the feeling of my grubby cock deep inside that royal fucking cock now? Oh, feels good, doesn't it? I'm gonna make you shit pregnant. Oh, lovely jubbly. And then one of the Queen's dogs will escape. One of the corgis. No, Lucifer, come back here. What have I told you? Stay away from the mulatto. Oh no, the dog's biting my leg. Oi, Harry, I just spunked the load inside of your missus. Clean it up. Why, thank you. If I charged a tenner, would you come and see that? Of course you fucking would. You know, and we're going to do it all outside. Like, it's a knockout. You see, you don't need money on fancy studios, and when you have all this fucking money they spend, it's all just on studios that are completely unnecessary. We'll just go to a different fucking park around the country each week and fucking have a tournament. You know, this is our culture. I'm reviving our culture. And they're bringing back Gladiator. Now, you see, this is indicative
of how much imagination they lack. Because again, you're dealing with an anti-art society too, remember? You know, like that's what the least amount of the budget for the BBC spent on is the arts. So you're still dealing with anti-arts culture, so they have no imagination, and also infantilise themselves. You know, they're not willing to take risks, and they're infantilise themselves, so they don't want to grow up and allow the younger generations to have their own shit. You know, and this is the crux of the matter for all things. You see, they introduce money with the investment of advertisers who are risk averse because they need to make the money back, and then they've been corrupted by Mammon. They need to contort themselves to fit within the demands of Mammon to appease his political ideology, and this is what's happening with the internet right now. All of the people you moved away from on TV are now setting up YouTube channels, and the same advertisers that ruin TV are invested in YouTube. So we'll also want to optimize their investment. Oh no! Better not swear. We may lose the children's market. Hey YouTube! Why don't you push channels with diversity that promote a really positive message? The most talented will be the least funded, and the oversaturation means each will dwindle in subscriber count and view time. Most will never be seen. Then nepotism and corruption will prevail, and the algorithm will show you all the same politically correct, infantilized, talentless drivel that you try to escape from on your television to begin with. It's very predictable because it happens with all things all the time. Mammon can't help but corrupt. It's in his nature. And it's what happened to television in my country too. I mean, I've said before that we are a sovereign nation. What I'm about to say should owe some credence to that. And we've been getting a finger banged by Satan Trismegistus for centuries now. Britain is one big globalist nut gobbler, if you weren't aware. And even when the BBC just had one channel, I don't think it was entirely noble. I'm sure there's always been a subversive element. I mean, although they didn't have daily news on the TV, they'd show newsreels in the cinema. But this wasn't a sovereign endeavour, as it was a deal they had with NBC to show the same stories across the Atlantic. So the globalist ties were well established back in the 20s. And perhaps I'll do an episode on the music industry 100 years ago. Been getting into that recently, but that was as international and subversive as today too, full of Americanization and fucking wiggers. But you know, but the real change seemed to occur after World War II. You know, because I looked into the logo, and originally it was the coat of arms, but then in 1953 it changed to the Batwing logo, which, you know, features a globe spinning surrounded by two eyes. And, you know, I was curious, but I had a little early life check on the creator of this, a man that went by the name of Abram Games, born Abraham Gams, mother's name Rosenberg, so, you know, not an Anglo, not of indigenous stock, let's say, and you know, the eye is a badge of subversion. You'll notice it's like, this is a globalist logo. Every kind of satanic performer you will see in the music industry that uses the fucking eye, like, yeah, they tend to fucking worship the devil. You know, it's a symbol of your subversion. You know, they've ever seen fast food rockers, subversives with Americanization, telling your children to have you know, KFC and McDonald's and all this shit. They were a part of that. You know, the whole One Eye Gang, CBS. So, you know, this is now a very clear globalist endeavour, very clear ties to Americanization and subversive practices not native to our country. This is where you get the idents of of the BBC ever since. Like they still have the eye logo, but they just disguise it. So like I don't know if you remember, just have like hippos swimming in a circle, for example, or they'll have like a scope that opens. It'll always be these things, but it's representing the eye. But again, the eye is just a badge of subversion. So ever since this time, since post World War II, it's absolutely not been in sovereign hands. It has been a propaganda for the globalists, and you can tell that with the symbolism. And all the stuff that's followed, all of the propaganda henceforth. But when we talk about Americanization, it's like I hate all foreign TV shows or influencers, something like that. That wouldn't be true to say. It's like we should be a sovereign nation, obviously, which we're not, but everyone grew up watching Takeshi's Castle, and this is one of the key points. I almost forgot to mention this now. Like what happened was, after they made this logo, a few years later, ITV came on the scene, and the reason why ITV came on the scene at the time, they said it is because television up till that point was seen as an upper class art form. It was seen as like a highbrow thing. In reality, what they do, and they do this often, they'll cater to stupid people in society, and then under the guise of catering to the working class, it's like, no, they're catering to stupid people. And that's what they did. And then they introduced ITV, which now introduced the idea of advertisements. So again, Mammon's claws were now in on the act, and all half of the shows of ITV were American. ITV has always been Americanization, and then you just get more and more shows to try and compete with each other, to the point where then you have all of it just all based upon advertisement, and say that is the subversion. That's how the subversion goes. You let the advertisement come in, and it all just gets fucked up. But I say it all goes back to then, where you have the initial subversion post-war, and this kind of like transatlantic empire. I mean, we can go into that another deep dive perhaps for another time. But I say it's not like it's just Americanization or globalization. But you can still take some foreign influences. People like the Takeshi's Castle. Growing up, I mean, I myself did a stint as an Emerald Guard. I was an Emerald Guard for a bit, being a Rainbow Warrior. So Megapus will tell you all about. I'm a strong advocate for stray pride, and I've crashed a dinky dodgem or two. I've penetrated a hole on a dinky dodgem in my time. That have been through the honeycomb maze. I've amazed many honeys. Combed a gnome before too, but I best not mention honey too loudly, with Kakanaks on the lookout for me. Yeah, I can hear spies still. I don't know if you can hear any of that, but you see, this is a game show. It's a very simple concept. They take a Japanese game show and they just commentate over it. But people, again, with a lack of imagination, go, "Oh, we need to bring back Takeshi's Castle," and they want to bring it back now. I think they probably have. I think that, just kind of made it worse than the original, because that's what will always happen. But if there's any Japanese show that I would want to bring back, if you could, is a show called Endurance. It's a show called Endurance UK. Originally, it was a show in Japan called Endurance. I think it's in the 80s. And it's a show basically where it's just torture. That's what the show is, just torture. And they get sent around the world, and they have to just endure torture. And I think it was, the longer they could endure the torture, they could stay on the trip. So I think I remember seeing one, and they go to Egypt, and they just have Egyptians get a microscope, and use the microscope to singe the nipples. Singe the nipples. I don't know whoever can withhold the pain, who can withstand the pain. They get to stay on, or they'll go to Holland, in winter, and then have like sit in ice cubes and drink ice cold beer and eat frozen spaghetti, and it's like, you know, that's all time. That was the original version of the show. Well, you know, which I think we could easily do something similar. You know, again, culturally, you know, I think torture is our forte, and in the show anyway, Endurance UK, it was hosted by Jonathan Ross's brother Paul Ross, and he had 2 Japanese assistants by the name of Hokey and Koki, if I remember correctly, and to be honest, there might have been a bit of yellow face that was happening. Now, there might have been a bit of yellow face, and but you know, isn't geisha white face? Isn't geisha white face? So maybe we're 1-1 on that. But yeah, I think maybe the first season might have done yellow face, but I think there might have been Japanese. I think there might have been actually Japanese, but they just put on these really exaggerated Japanese accents. So it'd be a show, and like they'd have these tests, like they'd have to have like an egg in their mouth, and then you know, whoever could keep the egg in their mouth without breaking it, whilst Hokey and Koki did like horrific things to them, like they'd like wax the hair from their legs, and you know, they have to like try and not bite down on the egg, and then you know, they'd ask they'd ask them like, oh, and what's this? So they'll go, this is pig shitteru. But you know, that was the show, and they'd just like wipe like pig shit on the face and like put a hand in a piranha. So this is a show I like, but this is the point, is like all Japanese shows. Japan is one of the only countries actually doing TV correctly. I say fuck Americanization, but Japanization I can get down with. You know, taking influence from Japan. They have some great TV shows. They have a TV show called Throw the Pizza, where you have a pizza in one apartment, and you have to like frisbee the pizza and try and make it land in the microwave of an opposing apartment block. They've also got Blow the Cockroach, where they try and blow a cockroach through a tube into the other person's mouth. Just so many, honestly, an abundance. They've got thousands of amazing games. It's too many to go through for Japan. And another one they have is karaoke wanking. So it's karaoke, and then they have a porn star come, and they'll wank off the guy as he tries to sing karaoke, and he has to try and make it till the end of the song. And you see, let's see what's about before about people going like, oh, it's too highbrow and upper class. So then they created ITV. You see, this is based upon not catering to the prismatic nature of the populace. You know, they're too prudish. That was really the downfall. They're too prudish. Whereas, like, having a watershed is a good idea. We can take that. We can take the good things we've learned from past mistakes. The watershed's a good idea, and we're gonna push the boundaries once it's past the watershed. You know, we'll have very hearty and wholesome entertainment throughout the day, as you've already heard. But in the night time, it's like, yeah, we're going to push it down. So we can have that show. So it's the same concept as Takeshi's Castle, but we can just have, you know, karaoke wanking, and it's not going to be Craig Charles doing the commentator. We're just going to have Jerry Sadowitz roast the contestants. That's our late night television. You're not going to get anything edgier than this anywhere. Not on the dark web. It's going to be Jerry Sadowitz commentating, and let me tell you, he's going to call them more than Waziks. He's going to call. In fact, the show's going to be called Waziks. The show's going to be called Waziks with Jerry Sadowitz, and it's going to be our late night entertainment. Yeah, and that's how you do. You have to then you cater to all people. At that point, we've gone through everything. We've got the art, we got the cooking shows, we got the kids shows, we got the conspiracy shows. We got the fucking royal sodomy. We got all of it, and you see, that would be worth watching. Then, you know what I mean? That would truly, you would have catered to everyone, and everyone would be better off for it. You know, we can have a philosophical show. You know, it's just Pab's Pabulum on your television. Basically, this is what we could do. Because, you know, there's nothing worth watching on TV anymore. So honestly, the only time I actually watch TV now is just to hate watch shows. I don't know if you've ever seen a show called Naked Attraction. This is a show I like to hate watch. If you're not aware of what this show is, it's demonic. It is demonism under the guise of a dating show. And the basic idea is that an insane clothed person, lovelorn, enters the show as the chooser and is faced with 6 naked people, 6 being the number of the devil, of course. And these 6 are all initially hidden in luminescent booths, but their bodies and faces are gradually revealed through successive rounds from the feet up. And in each round, the chooser eliminates 1 naked person until only 2 are left. Then the choosing reprobate also takes off their clothes to make the final choice, and then decides which person they wish to go out with, and then the 2 go for a fully clothed date. That never fucking works out. Every single time, I swear, they'll follow up like 6 weeks later, and this dumb hoe will be like, "Why didn't you call me back?" I sucked your dick. Doesn't that mean anything to you? So that's the basic premise of the show, and I want my spies to be making notes of the names of everyone that appears on this show. Every single one of them is a danger to society and must be on a watch list. Imagine signing up to be on Naked Attraction. Just being trapped in this fucking blue pod bolloco, and the aircon's giving you fucking rhino sack. And then the show begins with Satan playing a synthesizer. That's how the show starts. If you haven't seen it, we're with Satan playing a synth, going da 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 da. And then you hear the insatiable spinster presenter conversing with the chooser, this childless succubus, go, "Oh, she likes a big one. Did you hear that, boys?" Yeah, there's nothing I can do about it, actually. It may shock you, but it's absolutely fuck all I can do. The female desire for a big penis is an absolute myth, by the way. That's another thing I'll go into with a deep dive someday. Expose the big dick scam, and it is a scam. Truly, it's not a feminine desire. It would literally be apocalyptic on an evolutionary level if it were true. They're imitating men. Most probably their gay bestie. And not only is it not just some kind of arbitrary preference, as they might try and blag, it's actually a red flag. If a woman tells you that she desires a big penis, that's a red flag in and of itself. That is the truth. But of course, you don't just have to take my word for it. You could just observe the dregs of the dating world on Naked Attraction, because biology and logic are never an obstacle too great for these size queens. I swear I saw an episode once where they got a ruler and measured the guy's dick. They were like, Orange said his penis is 12 centimetres, but I think he's smaller than that. Has anyone got a ruler? Yeah, he's not 12 centimetres. He's only 10 centimetres. Nah, he's only 10 centimetres. That's no good. Anyway, then the game begins and everyone's lower body is revealed. Dum 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 dum. After more the fucking demonic music, and then the humiliation commences. Oh, he's not a grower or a shower. Just pure emasculation from start to finish, and everything they say when it's a man, it is like this. He doesn't have a very confident stance. Yeah, look at his weak stance. It's pathetic. But then when it's women in the booth, these fucking ogres, they'll never say anything negative, ever.
Oh, she looks like Botticelli. Botticelli? More like pot of jelly. but like fucking pot of jelly. The fucking hideous fucking stretch marks aplenty, asymmetrical labia, belly button fluff. But they're all somehow powerful queens. I saw one that was quite good actually. Because you get a lot of virtue signaling men on there, and there was one that decided to get rid of the skinniest girl in the first round, and he was asked why, and he went, "Well, I'm just really into body positivity. Oh yeah, bit of a cushion for the pushing." And then the girl that he chose to eliminate was the best looking girl to ever be on the show. She was a 10. I mean, clearly a hoe. You know, why else would you be on Naked Attraction if you weren't a hoe? But she was by far the best looking hoe to ever be on the show. And you just saw the look on his face, the look of an absolute twat. The look of an absolute twat that had been struck by instant karma. And then every woman that was revealed in every round, significantly worse than the first. And you could just see the whole time that he couldn't get it out of his head. It was fucking beautiful to witness. Just sentenced himself to dine with twos because he wanted to be woke. Fucking spineless eunuch. You got exactly what you deserve. Imagine going on first though. Imagine going on first. Imagine going on Naked Attraction and then going out in the first round. You know, let's see what you're missing out on. He's Daryl, he's 31, he's an IT technician, and he's from Yeovil. And then they always say the same thing. They always say the same fucking thing every single time when they go out first. She did me a favour. She wasn't my type anyway. Fuck off, lad, with your maggot. With your Maggie Simpson. With your Rice Krispie. With your itty bitty clitty. Fucking micropene Dean taking up none of my screen. But then even after you make it past this fucking first round, the next round of emasculation's gonna begin. Well, fucking rub ice cubes on your nipples or make you do star jumps or some shit. And then finally, in the next round, the face is revealed and you finally get to see the woman you'll be winning a date with for all your troubles. And then you see her and think, oh, she's a fucking 5 and she's wearing a dog collar. Lucky me. Lucky me. All of this for a 5 in a dog collar. I'm telling you, everyone that enters this TV show should be on a watch list. They're far too masochistic to be healthy members of society. And does this not bring shame on the entire nation? That this is what is broadcast of our nation around the world. Sons and daughters that lack the guidance of a mother and father. Have the globalists really divided our society this much that the women of this nation can't say to their fellow sister, no, don't do that. Don't do that. You're better than that. You shouldn't enter that show. And the same for our men to their brothers. Are there really this many people in society that lack a friend? Just one true friend. Are there this many people in society that refuse to tell the truth?
Though I'm not great at introductions, while the pendulum swings slow, I will swallow my reluctance. And so, here I go, here I go, here I go, here I go, here I go. What's your name, what's your number? Together we can this rock. If I put 2 fucking fingers inside of your pussy and 2 in your eyes, they'd call it the Spock. I would have the whole wide world safe in my hands while the rough seas tremble below. We could live long and prosper, baby, with my fucking hello. And then your eyes would say, I hope it was a greater pleasure knowing me as it will be knowing you.
Now the time has come to listen to the madness of the masses. If you'd ever like to contribute to this part of the podcast in future episodes, transmit your trans clit deep into this unrespectable receptacle, and I'll shit out a rainbow trout to bring good tidings to you and your kin. In other words, send your videos, pics, thoughts and questions in to pabulum@gmail.com and follow me across social media at pabthecrab. So my question this week was, who is your favourite YouTuber and why? And we got a couple of responses. One was got to be the king, just pure non-apologetic intelligence. And what I consider this question to mean is, what are your thoughts on analingus? And I gotta say, I am partial to some, it's not something I ever thought I'd be into in my teenage years, but once you find a woman who crosses the Rubicon, you're like, yeah, you know what, actually this is preferable, and I don't think I wanna return to having a fucking dry orifice once again, and really it's impolite not to. It's false modesty. Like, well, you fucking love me. That's what it really is. Like, it's a crucible. It's a crucible for love. You don't love me enough to stick your tongue in my ass. Like, what? And yeah, I mean, I say I'm a big fan of the old Rimsky. I don't know if you had any Rimsky Korsakov throughout the episode, but. Yeah, and that all should have been pretty telling, but I think it's kind of like it's like developed throughout the past couple of decades. I feel like in the past a ball suck would be courteous behaviour for a woman giving a blowjob, but now it's the booty lick. It's like if you're down there anyway, it's like why are you not doing it? You know what I mean? Like truly, why are you not doing it? Yeah, but it's saying that it's like also passion is a key component. You know what I mean? It's like if you're gonna do it, you must devour it. It must be the most delicious delicacy you fucking could ever fathom. You must absolutely devour it. And anything other than that, yeah, I don't want. Like, is it more depressing side than fucking looking down at a girl who's tentatively about to lick your asshole? It's like, yeah, I'd rather you just don't do it. If you're really that fucking repulsed, it's like, yeah, I 100% don't do it. Don't. I say this is a prime. This is a luxury item. You're about to be fucking granted, and y'all treating it like it's some kind of Scotch bonnet. I don't want to see that, but thank you anyway, I should say. Although the intelligence is it's a bit of a roller coaster. I'm not sure it's quite. I am quasi-spastic. I said it several times. Well, yeah, maybe the king could have been Elvis, but anyway. So another question was. Another answer rather was PewDiePie is my favourite YouTuber because he's funny and always positive. I like PewDiePie. I've seen Pewds. Me and Pewds go way back. PewDiePie. Again, if you ever need any impressions, then do request them. And no, but I do actually like PewDiePie because as I'm not actually not that into too many YouTubers myself, but so I was just curious to kind of know what the audience thought of the whole online entertainment thing. But PewDiePie is one that I have seen a bit of, and what I like about him is that I say he's kind of is a positive character, I think, and I've seen him recommend Stoic philosophers, and I can't remember what else I saw him do. Yeah, some fucking some TLC reaction videos. It was good. It was good. I like it. So I like PewDiePie. What do you think of Mr. Beast? I've said this for a long time now. I think Mr. Beast is just bum fights for pacifists. I mean, honestly, and I know people might go, "Oh, well, who are you? What, and why are you being such a hater on old Beastie Boy?" But it's like his advice is honestly useless. I'm in the YouTube game now. I'm looking into all this growth malarkey, and then I look into Mr. Beast, and I start to heeding his advice and whatever. Then I was thinking about it. It's he has no clue how to grow anyone's channel because he's muddied the waters through money. Because he literally tells people, "Hey, you can win $100,000 or whatever if you subscribe to my channel." So he misses that element out of his YouTube advice of how to grow to the top. He doesn't say, "Hey, I also my channel doubles as a lottery for the impoverished people of the planet." So maybe that's why they click subscribe, because I said you could win an exorbitant amount of money if you click subscribe. But then he won't mention any of that, and we'll just go, "Oh, it's just all about checking your content and your thumbnail and all this kind of." It's literally, he can never know why someone clicks subscribe because he's perverted it. So really his advice then becomes useless. Also, it's he also never talked about the politicization of the algorithm. Also, for example, the censorship or anything, which is also a factor, of course, if you're going to be pushed or censored by YouTube, and yeah, I mean the whole thing's ultimately you have to become a children's TV presenter. That's kind of what they want. You're not he's just a really good ambassador for YouTube because he's never going to say anything negative about that censorship or anything. He'll just go "Oh yeah, it's just about you got to improve your videos and you got to do the the thumbnail and whatever else." It's you won't go deep into the kind of the infantilization of it all. And it's the thing too, "Oh, you got to change something every 6 seconds. You got to you got to make a noise. You got to go woo. You got to jump about. You got to do a zoom. You got to put subtitles flash." It's why are you catering to fucking the attention span of a child? It's because you're trying to appeal to children. And so and that's the other thing. I say I don't want to come across a hater because things I can see a Mr. Beast video and go "Oh yeah, I get it. I understand why that would be entertaining to a child." But it's it's actually not that impressive if someone's investing $1 million into an episode. It's this on this podcast we're investing pennies and it runs on slave labour. You know what I mean? I just have elves as slave labour, and we're investing pennies. But imagine if we had $1 million per episode. I'm not even exaggerating, and I don't care if anyone says I'm arrogant or whatever else. It's it would actually be the best form of entertainment to ever exist on the planet. If we had $1 million per episode, are you fucking kidding me? This would be Cirque du Celestial. You'd be privy to some royal entertainment. If there's a Rothschild out there that wants to give me some investment, then I'll be more than willing to fucking take the cash. But yeah, I mean it's I say, call me a hater as much as you like. I'm not that impressed by any of it. Who are your podcasting influences? Well, I mean, I am a bit of a whore for podcasts because I've got an addictive personality. So once I kind of got the idea of doing a podcast, I started watching many. Probably, Joe Rogan was the gateway drug. I think it's the case for pretty much every podcaster on the planet. But I wouldn't really consider him like an influence or anything. I mean, I could just rattle off a bunch of podcasts I like. I'm a big comedy fan. And I think America's gone through a golden age for stand-up. And they have a lot of good podcasts. Kill Tony is Kill Tony's one of the only podcasts, actually, that I probably watch, like, every week. To be honest, like, I don't have a lot of time to watch all the others. I like, dip in, dip out. But Kill Tony, that's something I'll check out. So the roast between David Lucas and Tony Hinchcliffe are pretty legendary. Bad Friends, Two Bears, One Cave, Your Mum Sounds Like Tom Segura, the Tim Dillon Show. Yeah, they're the kind of podcasts I like, but I don't know. And but they were all American, and it feels like I'm not really a fan of any English podcasts. I don't really even know of any. I mean, I watched like the Ricky Gervais show years ago, but again, I don't think it's really much of an influence. And another thing, another podcast that I like is Jamazing, which is a podcast by Chris Lilly. And Chris Lilly, he's a bogan cunt. And yeah, I love bogan cunts on this podcast. We're big in Australia. And what's wild with Chris Lilly is, like, he's actually... I know this is going to sound like, big praise, but I honestly think he's the best character-based comedian to ever live. Like, he truly is. I love Chris Lilly so much, and it's just wild. Like, you watch his podcast, and they have like 8,000 views or something. Like, which is still, it's a lot of views, but it's like, for the level of genius this man is, it's so few. So yeah, I think that everyone should give Chris Lilly a lot more love and support. And yeah, anyway, he had a show in the past called Summer High Tie. He had a character called Jimmy, and she wasn't honestly my favourite character of his when in any of those shows where she was a schoolgirl. But now he's got a podcast series as Jimmy called Jamazing, and she's just got like a kind of like a woke, slutty student, and yeah, it's phenomenal. So I highly recommend you check out Jamazing, and yeah, support the comedic genius that is Chris Lilly, a bogan cunt. And but yeah, I'm trying to think as I answer that, what like real influences they've been on this pod. Like, I think originally I was just listening to trialogues of Terence McKenna, Rupert Sheldrake, and Ralph Abraham, and I was quite like that, like long form conversations and about like different topic each time, and there was like quite like philosophical topics sometimes. Quite like that. I listened to like Alan Watts on the philosophical front. I quite like. But maybe a big turning point for like how I decided to do the podcast by myself, for example, that was probably Theo Von. Actually, that was probably the big, because I mean, I've heard other people do podcasts by themselves. I like Ari Shafia's Skeptic Tank, obviously Bill Burr's Monday Morning podcast, and I was aware of those, but the first time it like clicked in my head once I decided I was going to do a podcast at some point, that made me think like, oh, I'm actually going to do it by myself. was Theo Von this past weekend. You know, like if there wasn't this past weekend, there would be no Pabulum. Probably because I watched him do it, and then I was like, oh, that's actually that's exactly one. And even obviously Theo Von's like comedic stylings and everything I love also. He's he's another like a dream guest. Him and Monique from Fort Boyard. They're like my number one. They're like the dream guests for past Pablo. Theo Von and Monique on the same episode. You know, once we get to that level, we know we've really made it. But I think Theo Von's a huge influence, and I highly recommend you check out his podcast. And the Stevie Weeby Show is another one, and that's good because it's like he's just weird, you know, like and when I saw that, it kind of gave me license to be weird myself, you know, because there's so few people that are willing to be weird and have any kind of psychedelic elements. So yeah, that's another kind of influence that I looked at and I was like, oh yeah, I'll do something like that. And also another one, but it's not come to fruition yet, was another podcast I like, I don't know if I mentioned that, was Tim Dillon. Another recommendation. But yeah, another one that is kind of an influence on the podcast, but not in the form it is now. So you're witnessing the trans episodes now. We're trying to transition into into what the podcast is going to become, and that's the Uncle Floyd Show, which is it's a weird influence. But I read an article saying there was a show that John Lennon and David Bowie used to see together when they lived in New York, called the Uncle Floyd Show. And I found it on YouTube and started watching it. And yeah, just a very like consistent kind of like cabaret kind of thing where they always just like have musical elements and sketch elements and all this kind of stuff. And I thought like, oh yeah, like eventually I would like to have the same level of consistency and variety that has. That was kind of inspiring, I thought. Who is your favourite musician, painter, poet, and porn star? Well, there's a lot of questions in one here, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to answer this too swiftly. I mean, I don't watch porn anymore. Ever since I adopted all of the whores of the world to be my daughters, that would be incestuous of me. But actually, you know, that's a true. Actually, I don't masturbate to it, but I still watch it because of the for the upcoming porn review show, which if you haven't heard about, it's just going to be Gogglebox, but with porn, and I'll give some social commentary on the side. And I did say in one episode of the podcast that Mandy Muse has a permanent invitation to the podcast, and I'm a man of my word. So Mandy, if you're listening, you know, you do still have the invitation, it still stands. Because, you know, if you know me, you know that I'm a connoisseur of physiognomy. You know, I'm partial to a porg. That's something that will be on my epitaph someday. I was partial to a porg once upon a time. But to be honest, even with Mandy Muse, to be honest, is like, even when I watch porn, I'm a fan of the porg element and a work ethic, but it's like she fucks too many blacks and Jews, which is repulsive. You know, you know what I mean. So it's like, that's repulsive, and you're like, oh, well, that's fucking like 19th century of your pad, but it's like, no, actually, it's normal, and if you're to say anything different, you're abnormal. Actually, and this was common knowledge maybe like 10 years ago. Like, women in porn were forbidden from doing interracial scenes because it's going to be repulsive to the majority of the market, so they wouldn't do it. Like, it's not like anything's changed hands at the top of those businesses. It's like they just have become woke, and it's like, go woke, go broke. It's the same fucking dog shit that's infected every other business. It's like it's the same in porn. They just try to push this thing that no one is gonna be able to be into, because again, they knew this 10 years ago. You think about this is what like puritanical conservatives don't understand about people watching porn. So they'll often go like, oh, why are you watching someone take their clothes? Like, if someone was to take their clothes off in the middle of the street, would you start touching yourself then? And it's like, well, no, because you're not a voyeur. You're not a voyeur. 98% of the people in society are not voyeurs. If someone was having sex in your living room, you wouldn't be aroused. You would be repulsed or laugh or, you know, feel awkward or whatever. The reason why you're aroused by porn is because of your imagination. You know, because you need to put yourself in those people. Well, you know, implant yourself into the situation. You know, you don't have to participate, but you know, you need to have that, be able to do that. You need to have the imagination to go like, I'm going to put myself in that situation. And so, yeah, when it's something that isn't you, it's too far away from being that. If it's like, I say in my situation, if it's a black guy or a Jew, it's like, I can't do it. You know, I mean, I now can't make that leap. To go like, oh, I'm that fucking guy now. You know, I can't do it, so it means I can't watch it. And then if I click on any porn star's channel, you know, that does that, you click on and it's like, oh, it's fucking... And it's how retarded people are. It's like, if I say that statement initially, there will be like fucking... People are like, oh, is that racist? Is that racist? Like, I love watching women getting fucked by 7 black guys because I'm not a bigot. It's like, what? You watch that? That's the thing. It's like, no one can watch it. It's not designed for you to like watch and enjoy. It's just pure fucking demoralization. Like, there's nothing. Like the amount of the population that could possibly appeal to, who's actually masturbating to it, is like. It's less than 1%, because even on like a level of like, okay, well, like black guys might be into like a white girl being gangbanged or something. It's like they might not even be into white girls anyway, and they might not be watching porn. So you've now gone from catering to the majority of an audience to now the vast minority. You know, and that's why you know, go woke, go broke. It's the same shit in all of these businesses. I mean, you know, there's a fucking a pattern at play here. Mammon's talons are deep in the porn industry also. But that's the thing, is like, I can look at that. If I'm a Kuma consumer, I can go on fucking Mandy Muse's page and look at 90% of the videos and go, you really think I'm going to sift through any of these videos to find one I can then masturbate to? Or do you think I'm just going to watch someone else? Is like, obviously, I'm just going to watch someone else. Why am I going to spend time to find it, like sift through it? And go like, oh, well, there's fucking like one gangbang, there's another one, you know. And if you want to know the truth of the matter, I actually click on the video and then I give it a thumbs down. I actually click, I don't even watch it. I click on it and I give it a thumbs down, and then I watch something, you know, that's to my liking. And but yeah, I mean, that's all of the porn. That's what all they want is like interracial porn, gangbang porn, tranny porn, and like BDSM. You know, which you're not really naturally gonna watch. So then after that, then people are like, oh well, let's just fucking watch something that caters to you. Could cater to your taste. So you know, that's actually the most popular thing now, is like the amateur channels. It's literally it's the same story as fucking YouTube. Like I say, it's the same pattern for everything. It's like the fucking money corrupts. They go like, they push it, because that's the other thing with the whole like black thing, for example. It's like fucking black.com, for example, is owned by a Jewish man called Greg Lansky. You know, so when you know that, it's like, it's not even just like, okay, I'm not into it and I wouldn't be able to masturbate to it even if I wanted to, of which, again, why? But it's like, there's another another agenda at play there, you know, which is that they're being given the most money in order to do those scenes. It's not like, oh, that's what they actually want to do. It's like, no, they're just getting given the most money by a Jewish man to do that, and that's the other kind of, well, yeah, it's just a nonsensical element, because it's not like the whole website's set up by a fucking interracial couple that's just like, hey, well, this is just what we're into. You know, I'm well aware of the ideology behind it, and I'm well aware, you know, it's the same ideology being put, all the possible reasons this could be pushed from society. So it's like onto society that it's a social engineering. I'm aware of that element also. It's not just like coincidental that this is being pushed. It's like, no, it's fucking political, really. So yeah, on several levels, I just can't condone that. But you see, that's what happens. It gets pushed through all these things, doesn't cater to the majority of the public. They won't watch it. So then what happens is, I'd say same story for like TV and the internet and everything. So then people go, oh, we'll make our own porn channels. And they're now the most popular things. It's like, I don't know if you've ever seen them, it's like couples, and they make porn, but they basically go on like a vlog. They're going on like a mountain hike, and then she'll like start sucking his dick, and he'll, you know, blast a load on her face, and you know, like fucking Yogi Bear will come as, you know, you see all these things, but it's the kind of the same thing that happened with YouTube. You have all these channels, and then people go like, oh, we'll set up our own like couples channel, and it will be a porn thing, but then it becomes an oversaturation, and everyone thinks they're going to do it, and then so then they started, and then now in reality, porn's just fucking, you know, full of ugly couples. That's really what it's like. Porn site's basically like 90% ugly couples, because everyone was told like, oh, you know, this is an alternative way you can make money, and so they're all trying to participate. And the same thing for OnlyFans too. They get told like, oh yeah, you can set up an OnlyFans, and you know, that's a way of, you know, being empowered. You can make money, and then it gets oversaturated, and you just have a bunch of hoes wasting the time, really. And yeah, but I say it all comes from the corruption of those like mainstream companies, where they used to cater to the tastes of people, and then in the end they go like, no, let's push a social agenda. Oh, we'll show those racists. Let's do fucking get a interracial gangbang, because people will love that. And it's like, yeah, no one likes it, and yeah, that's where I stand on it. But that's all American porn too, so it's all just like fucking Jewish and black, so I can barely watch it, so I don't even know if I can give you any name that you would know. You know what, Angela White, and Dame Angela White, she this bogan bitch, a bogan bitch, Angela White, she looked at a damehood for her blowjob expertise. I heard about her recently. She got a burst appendix on set, so you know, hope she's having some lemsip and is healing her. But you know, she's a name you might know. Also Asura, but not. I don't like any of her scenes or anything. But I used to watch a podcast that she did, DVD ASA with David Cho, and yeah, she's pretty funny. So I like her for her humour. But I said that's the thing, I can't really watch American porn for those reasons. It's too subversive, and so then I can only watch European porn. But then it's like European porn's full of psychos. You know, it really is just full of psychos. And if you're like, oh well, Pablo, you're British one and you watch British porn, it's like, well, that's fucking the worst of them all. Are you coming to bed then, darling? Oh, that feels belter. You know, it's like, yeah, that's the. In fact, you know, we've done one on the reforming of British television. I will do an episode in the future of how we can reform the British porn industry. That's one I'll add to the list. But I can watch this. I know watch European porn, and it's too fucking wild. And it's like the energy is just like satanic. You know what I mean? It's just you're like watching a gang, like all have tracksuits on, and they just don't conceal the kind of trauma at any point. There's no acting going on, and you know, just see this, Dad, and you know, there's the mascara's running down his face, and they're yeah, I mean, it's wild, and then just like start pissing on each other, and they're just too wild, really, in European porn. But as I say, it's the only thing I can really watch. I don't know if I give you any names, obscure names. Let me think. Iris, Kiss Kiss. That's who has Pabulum stamp for approval. Yeah, and you know what? It was something. We need to spread this podcast a little bit. So, you know, if you are a Kuma consumer, then why don't you, like, every single time you go on a porn site from now on, like, find an obscure Eastern European like a porn star, and then just write like Pabulum brought me here. You know, the people do on YouTube channels. We're just gonna get the obscure Eastern European porns. You know, Pabulum brought me here, and in fact, any crackhead porn also, because you know, you got to think like they're gonna write into the podcast and they say whoever's stumbled upon some crackhead porn, if you can scope some out and then just put like Pabulum brought me here, you know, maybe we'll get some interesting questions written in. But even with Iris, it's same with Mandy Muse as well. It's like I'm also not into tattoos. It's the off-putting thing, but maybe that's why I like Angela White. But yeah, I'm not into tattoos. I know people get their knickers in a twist over that, but a tattoo by itself is a red flag in and of itself on a woman. I know people don't want to accept that. They think it's too far, but it's like being a porn addict. I say I've seen thousands of videos by you know, with this porn thing in the works, the porn show, and it's like 98% of the women doing porn have tattoos. You know, it's something I've observed. So yeah, the only porn I can actually watch is Japanese porn, much like the television. Japanese people, and it's to tell about telling you about the porn show. I'm actually thinking I'll have to do the first season initially, but the second season I might make it entirely about Japanese porn. Like the whole season might just be Japanese porn, because I love Japanese porn, and it's not even like. I'm not even masturbating. Like, I'd rather watch a Japanese porn film than an actual film. Like, it's just tremendous. I mean, I never used to understand it, but you know, because you just see like little clips here, but you got to watch a full thing. There's a real script. There's like Oscar winning performances with like. Truly like a real film script, Oscar-winning acting, and then they just like have a bukkake at the end of it. Like it's phenomenal. And the train rape porn. Oh, let me tell you about Japanese train rape. Again, I know on paper you look at it and you're like, what the fuck's all that shit about? I used to be the same way. You see, Japanese train rape porn is like the jazz of adult entertainment. Like it takes like it's real highbrow stuff, you see, because it's not about the rape that's happening. What I've started to theorize is that it's about the other people on the train. That's what it's about. It's like it's the guy reading the newspaper, and it's like this woman's being molested like next to him, and it's like he's looking at it. But he's struggling whether he should do something, and like, and he's like, nah, or he's aroused maybe, or you know, or he's ignoring it, and that's the other point is with the whole like rapey element. I think it's that they want their women to be modest and not want it. Like, that's what it is psychologically. They're like, they don't want a girl to be like, oh yeah, I'm just always up for getting fucked, because that's just repulsive. You know, they understand that's a repulsive element of, like, life. you actually don't want to be with a hoe. So they're like, oh no, this girl's not a hoe. She actually doesn't even really want to do it. And that's what they find attractive. And then also, like, when they start fucking on the train, it's also, I think that what they're trying to imitate is a dream. You know, because in a dream, like, you have the two people fucking, but everything else kind of continues the same. So it's like what they're showing you is the separation between fantasy and reality, to kind of indicate to the viewer, like, this is just fantasy. It's not reality. You know, it's I say very, very highbrow stuff. All of this when you truly get into it. And as I say, like, with the European porn, so in the American ones too, is like, there's no real acting going on anywhere, and like, the women are making no effort to conceal their trauma. Whereas that's not the case with Japanese porno. It's like, I watched one, and it was a blow bang. I don't know if you've ever seen a blow bang before, but it's like a woman that sucks off 8 guys, and there's this woman, and she's like being really courteous and polite, and she's looking up at this guy, and he's kind of overweight, which is another thing that I know. If you're into body positivity, you know, Japanese porn is the way forward here, because and you look at another thing too. It's like they blur the dick, so that whole thing's like, and winner, that's not important anymore. It's like, you know, so it's an interesting thing, because she'll be talking to these people in the room, like introduce herself, say very, very courteous, and then there's some out of shape people, and she's just like sucking them all off, and she's go. I don't speak Japanese. I know you might go, I don't know, Pablo's fluent in Japanese. I'm just making noises, but you know, that's roughly what she was saying. She was going like, but the subtitles were saying like, oh, your belly's so big. Your belly's so big and so cute, and then the big belly guys like laughing to himself. She's just like, but really nice and like gentle, polite, courteous, and it's like, you will never find that in Western porn. You know what I mean? It's like, and she actually just seems adorable. Like, you could have a conversation with this woman like in a cafe. You know what I mean? I could go for like a meal with this woman with a cat cafe, and I would never lose respect for her. There's no respect lost, even though she's just sucked off 8 guys. In the West, I see a girl suck off 8 guys, like, she's fucking disgusting. You know what I mean? It's like, just immediately repulsed. And it's like, they might have got to the same place in the same way. They might have undergone the same life trauma. You know what I mean? There's probably a Yakuza element. There's probably a Yakuza element somewhere, but it's like, I don't see it. It's concealed in Japanese porn, where like, it's really convincing that she just loves her job. She just loves sucking dick, and it's like, and there's no judgment from the people towards her for it. You know, like unlike again in Western porn, like they're slapping the woman around and go like, oh, you're disgusting, and then like. And from her for herself, she must have like some degree of like self-respect also. That's completely absent from the Western. So yeah, Japanese porn is like, really no one does it better. And I say, I'd rather watch a Japanese porn from than a real film. To be honest, like, it's just comedy. You know, I could talk about it for hours. It's some of the funniest fucking things. Like, I don't know if you any names though. Any performers? Aika, I don't know how to say it. Aika is one. Yui Hatano, and Sumire Mizukawa, I think. Yeah. So there's my recommendations. They're my favourites, but I don't say my favourites because I know all the others, or they're particularly like, you know, amazing. I just remember them because I've seen videos with them where I laughed my ass off truly, it is some of the funniest things. And I don't like find like a 2-minute clip, or like they'll like stop time and, you know, start like fucking. That's the thing, that use real imagination in it too. But you know, it's you know, watch a feature length Jav with subtitles. It is so funny. I cannot recommend it high enough. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how long we fucking spoke about porn. I said it wasn't going to be a swift answer. Yeah, it was be swift. The poets I've already answered before. My four kind of Mount Rushmore of English poetry is Shelley, Shakespeare, Byron, and John Donne. Although there's, you know, I love it. There's painting, and too much of a simpleton to really give you an answer on painting. I like Da Vinci, Jan van Eyck. I'm into Hieronymus Bosch, Falero. We're going to do one on Falero. I'm into the nude, say, Partial to a Porg, and music. The Beatles is my favourite. I'm always interested to see what Arctic Monkeys are doing though at the minute. But you know, I say of all time, the Beatles. I know you say I'm biased here, but my mate Johnny Taylor's been featured on the podcast a couple of times. But yeah, no, he's like the best guitarist that I've ever met on the fucking planet. You know, yeah, he can like make a fucking, you know, a G string sound like a lioness. So yeah, you know, yeah, probably like even like modern musicians, Johnny Taylor, and so the band we had on last week was good. I like them, Velvet. I'm very excited to see what they will produce in the future. We had another good one. I like the French guys who are on the podcast, Canava Goodbye. And that's the thing. So I only kind of discover new music now through the pod. But yeah, I mean, of all time, I guess you gotta say the Beatles. But from what I've been listening to now, though, is like 1930s music. So very old fashioned, because I was always like reluctant to listen to that, because I was always listening to music from the past, like from the 60s and 70s, whatever it would be. But the 30s is like there was a blockade to it, because it sounds older than even classical music. You know, because classical music is like you can have modern recordings of the songs, but all of this is like recording. You can hear the scratch of the vinyl, and also just sounds old. And it's like, you know, it's a little bit of an obstacle to understand what's going on, but because you know, it's a little bit different to like modern bands, but they'd have basically like different frontmen front different bands. You know what I mean? So like they'd kind of always rotate, and they'll you can, whatever song you find is like 5 versions of the same song by different bands and that kind of stuff. So it makes it a little bit difficult first to kind of know where to get in and who's good and who's, you know, who's getting into. But, and you know, I'm not an advocate for drug taking. No, dairy me, not some cannabis. But I'm going to say, you know, if you should listen to It Looks Like Rain in Cherry Blossom Lane and smoke an ounce of weed, you know, you will be in nirvana, you know, by the Savoy Orpheans. You know, if you fucking wrap a belt around your arm and fucking listen to Lullaby of the Leaves, you know, you're gonna be in paradise. You know, if you fucking stick a fucking a poppy plant down your Jap site, you can listen to The Best Things in Life are free, and you're gonna feel like, you know, all your cares have melted away. So like, because that's the thing is, it has like a poetry to the lyricism from the songs of that period that there's been really nothing to match it since. And I get that it is still kind of manufactured. It's not as like grassroots as later periods of music. Again, like the Beatles and stuff from the 60s, the Kings and stuff. But you know, who I love those bands. But But again, just a level of poetry with the lyricism. I think that I've never really heard anything surpass the this period that I've started listening to now, like the 1930s. I think this film would be like the missing key in my life to, the last piece of the jigsaw for my like musical repertoire is the 1930s. I've been really getting into it, so I highly recommend all that shit too. Wagwan! Tell me Chew ain't seen a player with this much finesse.
Okay. Show him something now. Huh? Stop playing. Stop playing.
My cigarette. Look
Stop
at
playing.
A fool,
Stop playing.
Well, yeah, that is quite impressive. To be honest, I'm sure he could rival Dame Angela. If he's in need of a bed stay, I'm sure he has the oral capacity to to use his. But I wish he applied that much desire towards getting a job. But yeah, no, very impressive. And we have another video.
Esto va para todos los choros cuando lo agarren la zeta, madre que paguen porque si no lo van a romper todo en el nombre del diablo y yo cuando lo agarren manga choro lo iba a matar. La policía manda en Santa Fe, puto.
Tyrannosaurus Rex. There's any translators that can tell us what this chap's crime was. I heard something about churros and someone taking his Xbox away. But the thing that really caught my ear from all of it was the. So yeah, that's what I took away from it. Anyway, I think Hackanax's guards are moving on now, so it's the opportune moment to rescue the princess. It has been a blessing to have you enter my kingdom. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and thank you to all that contributed and that support the podcast in other ways. I want you to make your father proud this week. Close your eyes if you aren't already sleepy. Open your heart if generosity begs. Cross your legs and take a long, deep breath. That's it, well done. There are only so many seconds within each day. I'm not going to force you to count down. They will pass all by themselves. And you may forget what the next one is, or what the previous was. And that's okay. Just listen to the soothing sound of my voice. You're not going to sleep, and even if you are, you will wake feeling energized and invigorated. I'm just stealing your mind for a second, and if you want it, I am going to change your life for the better. And you're not going to have to do a thing. All you need to do is relax and observe the image I create after borrowing your imagination. You're completely in control and it's all up to you. See the image big on a cinema screen and imagining the movie of your life. And you look twice as relaxed as you look now. It is a movie set in your future, a full year from now, and you've achieved everything you hoped you would. Your health has improved. You feel as strong as you've ever felt. You're completely financially independent and all of your anxieties have drifted away deep into the ether of forgetfulness. I want you to use your imagination and float out of your body and float into this image. Feel all the positive feelings that come along with confidence and fulfillment. Change your life. And now in this new body, take a walk down a street and see how people respect you. How you emanate happiness and positivity to all you interact with. And your footsteps are light and weightless. And you think, is this what it feels like to walk on heaven? And then you take your seat inside of a cinema and you become comfortably aware how much your life has changed in 1 year through the power of positive thinking and application. You have far more positive thoughts than you used to, and they seem to grow each day. Comfortably aware of your heart beating and your breath rising and falling all by themselves. Comfortably aware of your shoulders relaxing. You can notice words. You can notice noticing words. You can notice your body can change your life for the better. And then you see another you on the screen, with even higher definition, colours more bright, and they have an even bigger smile than you. Their posture is even more self-assured. They ooze success, and their words melt like chocolate in the ears of the listener without needing to sugarcoat the truth. And you're asked, if you want it, your life will change for the better. All you must do is relax and use your imagination to float into this image and feel what it feels like to embody this new you that can tap into an unlimited source of tenacity at will, where all of your reservations have drifted away, deep into the ether of forgetfulness. And as the cars of the city beep, beep, beep away, your focus is never led astray, because you know what you need to get done, and you've been given all of the tools necessary to succeed. And everyone you interact with knows this about you and gleans inspiration just from being in your presence. There's traffic up ahead, but the driver finds a way to take you to your destination in a new way without diverting your course completely. And you float into the cinema. The screen is bigger than it has ever been in any other cinema to ever exist. And as you melt like chocolate into your chair, you see the numbers count down on the screen for the film that is about to play about your life 1 year from now. And it is going to change your life for the better. Moontime listeners, sleep contently and rise as radiantly as the sun beside you, lighting up the world with your good deeds. Sunshine spectators, be as still and content as the moon beneath you. You'll meet tonight having spent your day manifesting miracles with your genius mind. You have my love and support. All you must do is sleepwalk towards your destiny. You'll return here next week 1,000 steps closer to it. Playing us out this week is a chap called Marco Sisma with a song called And I Believe in You. And Mi Piaci, Così Tanto. Do follow him across social media and have a gander at his YouTube channel. And of course, send in your own tunes if you would like to be featured on the pod. Like, share, subscribe, yank the bell end so you don't miss next week's sermon. Follow me across social media at Pab the Crab. We are the algorithm. Buy a fucking book, educate yourself, and know that the time for peace is upon us.
Watching all the people there hide themselves behind for not seeing what goes around. Hands that are looking for, desperate begging hands in the sky without any color. And your eyes then will enlighten my gloomy mind. Voices asking for justice now, why they're passing by. perfect silence without any fear. But then you found my style alive now. I feel love, I feel fine, and I believe in you. And I'll have no way to see with my love life, the only way to get back alive. See the world outside of you, the emptiness of the street has got to fill you with passions and wear. But then you found my style alive now. I feel love, I feel fine, and I believe in you. Believe